Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to be doing a project where we're going to make a wreath builder template, and I saw this on Jan B. She's a Stampin' Up! Rep. I saw it on her channel. She showed how to do it, and I thought I would give it a try. So I hope you'll stay tuned. So the way you're going to make this is I have a piece of grid paper that I got years ago from Stampin' Up! I got a pad of it that I thought I would use as my background for videos, but it was too plain. I didn't like it, so I never used it. I never sold Stampin' Up!, just as an FYI. I just bought this pad because I thought it was handy. But I'm going to put a link to grid paper in the information below box so that you'll be able to get grid paper and print it out on your computer so that you can do this too. You're going to need a piece of acetate. Now what I did was I found at a garage sale, this is the weirdest thing, this brings back my youth, overhead projector plastic. There was a box of them and I thought, that's the coolest thing, I'm going to get it. But they're very, very thin, so I glued 3 or 4 of them together because I wanted them to be sturdier for this. And so if you have a thicker piece of acetate, you're going to need a bigger piece. This is an 8.5 by 11 piece. I recommend you getting something close in size to that, and I'll show you why as we do this. I'm going to make a 4-inch square because when I played with this and figured out what you have to do is you have to make a box that goes this way and a box that goes this way. If you do that, then you have to remember that your paper has to be this wide from side to side, and it has to be this tall top to bottom. So that's why I thought a 4-inch piece would be big enough, because I usually use 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch cards bases, so I don't want to make one bigger than that. You can make them smaller, you can make them any size, but we're going to do a 4-inch because I think that will be the easiest way for us to do it. Now, on my grid paper, I have a 4-inch mark and a 4-inch mark. Those are going to be important for us because what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to kind of center this on our paper like that, and we're going to make it so that our oh, it's a little bit too low, I think. We're going to make it so that our paper is lined up at the top. I don't know if you can see the top of my paper, but hopefully you can. I'm going to make sure that my paper at the top, I already ripped it by doing this once, and I want to make sure that it's on that grid, straight on that grid line. I hope that made sense to you. And then I'm going to also make sure it's straight on a grid line to the right. I have, this is painter's tape. It doesn't really matter. You could use washi tape or, basically any kind of tape. You just want to make sure that you have this straight on your lines, that that if you have a grid sheet, which is what I'm going to tell you need to get, and I'm going to give you that link, you're going to want to make sure that your paper is exactly right. It has to be square. If you don't make it square, this isn't going to work for you. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm taking a ruler and a Sharpie. Now, it would work better if you have a fine tip Sharpie. I don't. So I'm going to be using a regular Sharpie. And what we're going to do is we're going to trace the 4-inch mark . And then you're going to go across the bottom, again making sure your line is straight. And across the top. Might need to be a little bit higher. And then this side. Okay, that's our first box. Now you're going to take your paper. Oh, then what I did was I cut out a 4-inch by 4-inch piece, and I made a dot in the very center of it. And the reason I did that is I thought this would make sense, that I would kind of put it under, well, under my paper, not on the, like, obviously this is not the perfect setup, but here's the dot that's the center of my 2" by 2". You need to make sure that that piece, that little dot, hold on, I'm going to poke that out so that we can line it up. I'm just going to take my pokey tool and I'm going to poke right through the center of this. And the reason I'm doing that is we want to be able to make sure that my dot underneath shows up. You want to make sure that when you're doing this, that this piece right there, can you see that little mark? And that piece and that dot in the middle, that those are all exactly straight. So you have that lined up, this lined up, this lined up. Everything should be lined up. Okay. Here's what you're going to do next. Clearly, my grid paper has seen better days. I'm done with my grid paper now because like I said, I ripped it and had all kinds of problems with it. I'm going to throw this out because I played with it enough. This is when I found the easiest way for me to do this. I put my drawn image in my paper trimmer. You want to put your cut bar so that this little mark on your cut bar, that's where your blade is. You want to set it on that first line, and you want to make sure that you're on the line that you've drawn. And then you want to go up to the top. I'm going to turn this sideways so I can see it. You want to make sure that the top is even with this line right here. And you're going to turn it one turn. So now your paper is not going to be flat against your cut bar. It's going to be kind of diagonal on your paper. And you're going to cut down that piece. Hopefully that you understood what I meant there. I'm not making sense all the time. Okay, then we're going to turn it again, and we're going to go to the box, the left side, push your blade in, and push it all the way up until it gets to this top line. Turn it one turn again. Make sure you push down on that so it goes through all the layers of plastic, or whatever layer of plastic you have. Pull it out. Now we can put it even with our bar again. Okay. I'm just assuming I'm close on some of these. And these little pieces might start falling out. If they do, just pull them off to the side. Now I'm up to another diagonal one. And then I think this might be my last cut. And if you didn't cut all the way to the ends, these won't come out. So what I need to do then is I'll just take my paper snips, my little scissory snippies, there they are, and I'll just make sure that I do a nice clean straight line. Some of these, it might be a matter of it just is the teeny tiniest bit that didn't cut, but you don't want to tear it. So what you should have looks almost like a 6-pointed star, I think. I don't know, 8-pointed star. The other thing that I did with mine, because I lose things like this, the first thing I did was I got my MISTI, because this is a stamping tool for your MISTI. You want this to be the same size as your MISTI is to make it fit in there perfectly. So my MISTI is 8.5 inches tall by 6.5 inches wide. So I'm going to cut this. Get my paper trimmer back out because I completely forgot this step. I'm going to cut. I need it to be 6.5 inches wide. So I'm going to put my plastic in here. You want to cut off as much as you can so it's even on both sides. 6.5 inches. And then I'm going to cut some off the top. And then I'm going to flip it over 8.5 inches. Then, the next thing I did, because I can lose acetate faster than you can say anything, because it's clear, I can't see it. So I like to put paper, washi tape, any kind of tape will work. I just like to put some around the edge. Our next step is we're going to make ourselves a wreath. I'm going to use this Mama Elephant water bloom set. It has a lot of little images that I thought were kind of fun for this, and I thought we would start with this image right here. It's already in my MISTI, and I'm going to do this in blues. I have a viewer who I promised I would make a card for her, and her favorite color is blue. And blue isn't often used as a floral color, but I thought it'd be kind of cool. It would remind me of those plates. Like Wedgwood, are they called? The ones that are blue? I don't know. They're called blue, but anyway, that's where my inspiration is coming from. And I'm going to use Hero Arts Blue Reactive, Danube Blue. This is Paris Dusk, and Summer Sky. Those are all mementos. And I might use Bahama Blue. And then for my greens, I'm going to use Olive Grove and Pear Tart, I think. I might use New Sprout. I like using little stamps like that when I'm doing little images. I'm going to start out with the Hero Arts Blue Reactive. I think I'm going to go with Summer Sky, which is a very light blue. I'm doing Pear Tart for my inner leaf, and I'm going to do the Olive Grove for the outer leaf. Do the dots with Bahama Blue. When it comes to super tiny shapes, there's nothing better than my peg stamps. And I know this is a deviation from using the stamping tool, but I found this one. These are called squares without a pattern, and I thought they kind of looked like they would fit in with this. Not really powder blue. It's a little bit darker but muted. I'm going to put it in the center like that. And rotate them. Okay, then I'm going to go to a different thing, and that is a squiggle. Alright, we're going to go with it because it's in between blue and green, so we're going with it. I'm going to try blue raspberry. This little flower that it looks like a little star flower. It's just a really good filler. So there is our wreath. I think it's pretty nice. I mean, the Wreath Builder does make it so that you can move things around, or you can make a pattern pretty simply, but I mean, I don't think it's any easier than I made this with my peg stamps a little bit earlier, and after I put it on the base, I realized that I almost made it rectangular shaped because I was sticking to the shape of my project, which probably was a mistake, but that's what I did. So let's see what we can do to finish up this card. I thought about cutting it out like I did the other one, but that did take a very, very long time to cut out. So I think you guys know how I like to rig up my own ways of doing things, and so this is a piece of grid paper, and you can get the grid paper online anywhere, and all I did was I put clear plastic over it. I didn't laminate it. I just put clear plastic over one side, and because I lose things, I put washi tape on the other just so I wouldn't lose it. And here's the cool part about this, in case you wondered why I have this. If you put it in here and you put your sentiment, can you see my sentiment right there? Can you see that? How it's lined up with my grid sheet? Anyway, that's what I use this for. It comes in very, very, very handy for me. And I think I'm going to use that intense blue, or whatever this, what's it called, blue reactive, that I got from the Hero Arts monthly kit that had the county fair in it. I'm hoping. This says, "I'm glad there is you." I like that saying. I thought that was sweet. And you know me, I'm going to stamp it more than once because I like my sentiments to be nice and bold. And even though I'll probably be putting embossing powder on it, I really like it to be bold. This is a dye-based ink, but it's a really juicy ink pad. So when they're really juicy like that, normally you don't have any trouble getting your embossing powder to still stick to it. And someone asked me about using inks with clear embossing powder. The only difference is between using an embossing powder that's that color, like let's say I use a blue embossing powder. The only difference between using a blue embossing powder and blue ink is the blue ink will get darker with embossing powder once it's heat set, and you won't have that happen when you use your embossing powder that's that color. So there's that. Now for my, oh, did I tell you that stamp set? I didn't. It was from Inky Antics Simple Sentiments. I like that stamp set. It has a really nice kind of clean font, and there are a ton, you can see that, there are a ton of sentiments in there. So just so you know, that's what I was going for. So what I decided to do to decorate my card, I thought I would put this up on dimensionals, but I thought I'd put a ribbon behind it. Oh, and I cut this out with this, I think it's called a wonky circle die. It's just a weird edge circle. What do you think about me cutting it, having only half of it on the card? I kind of dig that idea. Alright, I'm doing that. If you're standing there saying, "Please don't, Sandy," it's too late. You've missed your opportunity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up so that I have a cut line that's going to be in between the flowers, hopefully. That's my plan anyway. And I'm going to move my blade up to the top. Well, I did a pretty good job, I think. Okay, so I'm going to put half on this card with a little ribbon like that. Okay, so I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals. Okay, normally when you have this, you should either use a lighter and light the end of it, or use a product they sell at the fabric stores that is one that's a fray stop. The one I bought was called Fray Stoppa, and that works well. It should stop fraying because of the tear tape behind it. I'm not saying it's going to, I'm just saying it should. I'm going to cut off this edge so it's straight. So I'm going to put that probably right in there. You have to really get that backing well adhered, especially when you're doing it on ribbon. It's hard to pull the backing off, so I'm just helping you with how to get it off. Make sure you really rub on the release paper before you take it off. Probably as straight as I'm going to get it. And we're going to wrap it. Hopefully that will stay. See how it's still fraying? Of course it is. Why wouldn't it? So you want to make sure that you guys put some fray stop. That's what my tape looks like. Or my ribbon. Tape, ribbon, you know, whatever I can come up with a word for. I kind of dig that. I decided I was going to put some buttons on the front of my card to finish it off, and I thought I would use embroidery floss to do it, and I just thought I would show you this little gadget. If you've never seen one of these, or if you've seen one and don't know what you do with them, here's what you do. You I'll just start over. You take this little tool and you put it through the eye of the needle like that. Then you thread. You put 2 strands. You put it through that little loop, and then you just pull it through like that, and that threads your needle. If you've never ever done something like that, I'm telling you, you definitely need to get one of those, because that is the easiest thing in the world to help you to do anything when it comes to threading needles. And believe me, I don't do much with needles other than put buttons on crafty things, but whenever I do, I'm always happy that I have that, because it does make a big difference. And I'm going to do this, I'm going through that center a couple of times because I want it to really show up. Now you can do that with paper. Instead, you can cut a little sliver of paper and put it through your buttonholes. I could show you that, but that's something Lindsay the Frugal Crafter does, and I think it's genius. It really looks nice, and it makes it a lot easier than threading a needle if you don't like to thread needles. And I'm just putting a knot behind my button just so we have a little bit. I'm not even sure why I can't see my knot, but I can't see it anyway. And I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to do my other 2 buttons. Okay, I have hot glue here because I wanted to put these on in a way that would make them stay, and so I wanted to do a little hot gluage. Rich thinks it looks better without the buttons. When I laid them on there, he didn't think they weren't winning him over, is all I'm saying. But I did like the look of them, so we're gonna go with it. This is the moment where you guys hold your breath and wait for me to burn myself, because you know it's coming. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take for me to do this. I like the buttons. Do you like the buttons? Voting is closing on this button thing. I'm liking them. Happy with this one. Let me put my stamp on the back. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make a wreath building template and making a card with it, well, or 2 cards. I hope that you'll give this a thumbs up and subscribe. Please tell your friends about me on social media, because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.